A tragic thing happened during the election. It was a tragedy because you wouldn't have, think of it, all of the problems that you have today, I don't think you would have had any of them. We're a third world country at our borders, and we're a third world country at our elections, and we have to stop that. Our cities are choking to death. Our states are dying, and frankly, our country is dying. Our country is known as a joke. It's a joke. Other leaders who I speak to, other leaders can't believe what happened to us.
Actually, other leaders across the world, I've spoken to quite a few, they only have one worry about America, and it's that guy becomes president again. Because, as you could tell, that guy lied time and time and time again. He can't help himself. Even his old fat Elvis, even exhausted, even with his mind blinking, even with him not knowing what president he's running against, even with him not knowing who the Speaker of the House was on January the 6th, that guy still lost and confused and lying. He said, our borders are chaotic. Why are our borders chaotic? Could it be that Donald Trump said, don't pass the largest, toughest border bill ever? That the people that are actually guarding the border were begging Republicans in the House to pass.
And that Joe Biden offered to the Republicans bipartisan legislation.
Exactly. And of course, you had a congressman from Oklahoma, one of the most conservative, actually drafting that bill. So, yeah, if the borders are still in chaos, it's because of Donald Trump. Elections, he said the elections were rigged. 63 courts, federal courts, said Donald Trump was a liar. Donald Trump's own Supreme Court said Donald Trump was a liar. The 3 justices that he appointed said Donald Trump was a liar. The most conservative justices there said Donald Trump was a liar, that there was not widespread voter fraud. Every one of them said it, that Donald Trump was a liar. And yet, he just keeps lying. And, Willie, we've talked about the economy. You look at the economy. Oh, well, what about crime? Talks about crime. There are things we don't like about cities. I think the city council in Washington, D.C., the city council in New York City, the city councils on the West, they need to wake up. But the facts are the facts. Crime is near a 50-year low. Let me say that again. Crime in America is near a 50-year low. Unemployment is at a lower rate than it has been since the 1960s. These are 50-year lows for crime, 50-year highs for jobs, and yet the lies just continue. He hates on America when loving America would be easier. He hates on America when loving America would be telling the truth about America.
The country has gotten so used to Donald Trump talking this way, but it's worth pulling back and considering the guy who wants to be president again, one of the last 2 standing now, says our country is a joke. He thinks the United States of America is a joke, and it's a joke based on all the lies that he laid out. We'll spare you from having to watch his low-energy speech last night, but it was full of lies about the economy. It was full of lies about crime. It was full of lies about immigration in this country. But he has to paint this picture of a nation in decline, despite all the data that says otherwise, so that he can again ride in to rescue the country. The whole thing is based on a lie.
I mean, who Mike Barnicle wants to vote for somebody that lies about their country and tears down their country? What people?
Seems to hate it.
Ronald Reagan, again, he said America was a city shining brightly on the hill for all the world to see. FDR talked about optimism. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. John Kennedy, when deciding to go to the moon, he said we decide to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. I mean, you go through America's history. It is positive. It is can do. It is keep your feet planted on the ground and keep reaching for the stars, Casey Kasem. That's what the American spirit is about. It's what got the boys up the hill in Normandy on June the 6th, 1944. It's what helps us to continue to lead the world militarily, economically, technically, you name it. We lead it. And yet we got this guy lying to Americans, saying horrible things about their country, saying their country sucks. and then maybe they'll see something on Newsmax or OANNNNN that says a trans athlete like 3 years ago in Boise played basketball and knocked a girl down.
Yeah.
Something that, by the way, 95% of Americans go, that shouldn't happen.
You know, the clip that we played coming in of Donald Trump talking about the America that he knows, that he thinks he knows, is stunningly pessimistic. And people thinking of running for or voting for president, any candidate, Trump or Biden, they want optimism. They want, where are we going? They want sunshine. They want a belief that things are going to be okay in America, not what Donald Trump is selling. I think it's going to catch up to him in the long run. But the point that you just referenced, June 6, 1944, I was reading again, rereading Rick Atkinson's trilogy, the first part of his trilogy, on World War II, The Army at Dawn. And on the morning of June 6, 1944, a young lieutenant, James Rudder from Texas, led the 2nd Airborne Battalion up the sides of a cliff called Pointe du Hoc, a straight-up cliff, 125 feet, to a German pillbox. And he went right at the Germans, 50% casualty rate. Why did they do it? They did it because we were Americans and we were there to save Europe from Hitler. And now, all of these years later, we have to get together as a country and save the country from the threat that Donald Trump proposes. Donald Trump actually has said, we all know this, that he could solve the war in Ukraine in one day. And we know how he would solve it. He would say, Vlad, it's yours. He would turn it over to one of our fiercest enemies. That's what we have to watch out for. That's what we have to protect. We have to protect the country that we love, that we believe in, not the country that he describes so negatively, you're right, each and every day that he speaks about the country.
Trashing the economy, insulting small business owners that wake up early in the morning, go to bed late at night, trying to make their businesses work, trashing entrepreneurs, trashing the people that make our economy the strongest in the world, trashing Mika, and I know this is personal for you, for security reasons, I won't say who it is, but trashing people like one of your relatives who could have done anything. Could have gotten a job on Wall Street if he wanted to, could have gotten a job on Main Street if he wanted to, but decided to go into the United States Marine Corps. Decided to give everything he had to be a Marine. And we won't say where he is right now, but it ain't Miami Beach in spring break. And it's going to be a long, tough haul for him. He did it voluntarily. That story is recounted every day by thousands and thousands of young men and women.
Yeah.
Some coming from immigrant families, just like a lot of immigrants, whether you're talking about World War II or whether you're talking about the Korea War or Vietnam, a lot of immigrants coming in and deciding that they wanted to be a bigger part of this country. And Donald Trump insults our men and women in uniform every day. Every single day. And I will say again, we know him.
Yeah.
But who in the audience continues to cheer as this man trashes are men and women in uniform?
So that is...
You sit and watch cable news.
Yeah.
These young men and women in uniform go through basic training. They kill themselves. They sacrifice their lives. They get assigned to go somewhere across the globe for 3 years. For 3 years, committed to one thing: protecting and defending you, protecting and defending your rights, protecting and defending the United States of America. And you trash them? And you vote for a man who trashes them? That is just shameless.